race for governor to two candidates offering almost opposite theories of government. Xavier Becerra says decades of public service prove he can operate the machinery of state. Steve Hilton says that machinery is exactly the problem, and California needs an outsider willing to break it apart. The latest Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies poll put Becerra at 52% and Hilton at 31%, with 17% undecided. That is a commanding lead, not a final result. The survey was conducted before the primary was completed, and California voters still have months to reconsider both candidates. This is not an endorsement. It is a receipt. What each candidate promises, what the governor can actually do, what the plans may cost, what their records reveal, and which controversies deserve more than a partisan slogan. California's governor controls the executive branch, proposes a budget, appoints agency leaders and judges, signs or vetoes bills, and directs executive agencies within existing law. But the governor does not write taxes, rewrite statutes, or spend hundreds of billions of dollars alone. The legislature controls appropriations and legislation. Voters control constitutional amendments and some tax decisions. Courts can block executive actions that exceed legal authority. Every promise, therefore, belongs in one of three columns. The governor can do it, lawmakers must approve it, or voters must approve it. That distinction matters because both candidates sometimes describe a desired outcome more clearly than the legal path required to reach it. Xavier Becerra served in the California Assembly, spent more than 2 decades in Congress, became California Attorney General, and later ran the United States Department of Health and Human Services. His strongest argument is competence through repetition. He has negotiated legislation, managed litigation, administered a huge federal department, and fought the first Trump administration in court. His campaign says his Attorney General's office sued that administration 122 times over immigration, healthcare, environmental policy, and other disputes. Democrats may see a tested defender of California. Republicans may see a career politician whose answer to every conflict is another government action. The harder question is not whether Becerra has experience. It is whether his management record justifies confidence. During Becerra's time leading Health and Human Services, the department faced an extraordinary surge of unaccompanied children at the southern border. Federal watchdogs later identified weaknesses involving contract oversight, information sharing, and the system used to monitor children after release to sponsors. One Inspector General audit examined 5 contracts totaling more than $2.8 billion and found that the responsible HHS agency did not follow every federal requirement for awarding, monitoring, and closing them. That finding is about a department Becerra led. It is not proof that he personally directed a violation. His supporters can fairly point to the scale and difficulty of the emergency. His critics can fairly ask what accountability means when the person at the top campaigns on management experience. There is also the stolen campaign money case. Former political aides admitted participating in a scheme involving about $225,000 taken from a dormant Becerra campaign account. Becerra has not been charged or implicated by prosecutors and presented himself as the victim of the theft. The legitimate receipt is narrower than an accusation of corruption. How did trusted insiders gain that access? What controls failed? And what did Becerra change after discovering it? Steve Hilton advised British Prime Minister David Cameron, later became a political commentator and Fox News host, and has never held elected office in California. His strongest argument is independence. He says Sacramento's governing class created the affordability, housing, energy, education, and public safety failures it now promises to repair. Republicans may see someone willing to confront unions, agencies, environmental rules, and one-party government. Democrats may see a television personality, endorsed by President Trump, asking to manage one of the world's largest public organizations without a comparable governing record. Outsider status can create freedom. It can also hide an evidence gap. Hilton has fewer public sector results to audit, so voters must test the operational detail of his promises more aggressively. Hilton's family. First Agenda says California should move toward protecting life and describes abortion as too often treated as the only option. It promises more prenatal care, adoption support, and partnerships with faith and community organizations. The platform does not provide a complete legislative map for abortion restrictions. Democrats will demand one because California has built extensive legal protections for reproductive care. Hilton also proposes defending gun rights, reviewing firearm restrictions he considers unconstitutional, strengthening penalties for repeat and violent offenders, reversing prison closures, and restoring parental control in education. He wants statewide rules limiting girls' sports to biological girls, and says he would begin overturning the state law underlying current school policies. Those positions may energize conservatives. They also give Democrats clear cultural targets in a state where Republicans begin at a major registration disadvantage. The management question remains: which changes can a governor make directly, which require the legislature, and which would immediately face litigation? Hilton proposes eliminating state income tax on earnings below $100,000 and applying a 7.5% flat rate above that level. He says California can cover the lost revenue by returning spending to a pre-pandemic path. The appeal is obvious: a simple number and a visible paycheck effect. The missing receipt is a complete fiscal reconciliation. California's proposed state budget is roughly $350 billion, and state spending has grown by more than $100 billion since 2020. Which programs return to the earlier path? How quickly? What happens to schools, healthcare, prisons, wildfire response, and local funding during the transition? Becerra's affordability program is less dramatic and less easily audited. He emphasizes action against price gouging and unjustified insurance and utility increases, plus assistance with childcare, healthcare, housing, and essential costs. The missing receipt is household-level math. How much does an average family save? What does the intervention cost, and who ultimately pays? Hilton offers a larger promise with larger budget risk. Becerra offers targeted intervention with less visible savings. Both need a complete table, not only a slogan. Becerra proposes a housing emergency, stronger enforcement of local housing obligations, faster permitting, more construction near jobs and transit, and financing for approved affordable projects his campaign says remain stalled. Hilton proposes lower impact fees, fewer state building and environmental restrictions, limits on environmental lawsuits, and more single-family construction. The partisan argument is familiar. Democrats warn that outward growth increases driving, infrastructure expense, and wildfire exposure. Republicans argue that environmental review, local fees, and density mandates have made ordinary homeownership impossible. The receipt is permits, starts, completions, subsidy per home, infrastructure cost, insurance availability, and time from application to occupancy. Becerra wants to preserve California's clean energy direction while increasing utility oversight, grid investment, storage, and assistance for lower and middle-income households. Hilton wants more in-state energy production, fewer energy regulations, lower gasoline prices, and a retreat from electrification mandates he says impose excessive costs. Democrats will argue that reversing climate policy transfers wildfire, pollution, and long-term infrastructure costs to the public. Republicans will argue that California has made energy unaffordable while claiming success for targets residents cannot see on a monthly bill. The complete receipt includes electricity price, gasoline price, outages, wildfire liability, infrastructure, subsidies, emissions, and legal compliance. A plan that lowers one column by moving the cost into another has not lowered the total. Hilton wants schools and teachers graded, stronger parental authority, rewards for top teachers, removal of poor performers, and every student meeting state math and English standards. Republicans may call that accountability. Democrats may call it an attack on teachers in public education. On crime, Hilton proposes stronger penalties for repeat and violent offenders, coordinated retail theft enforcement, more support for police, and reversing prison closures. Becerra supports community crime prevention, public defenders, civilian oversight of police, and trained social service responders for some homelessness and mental health incidents. Democrats may call that prevention and civil rights protection. Republicans may hear fewer consequences for offenders and less support for police. The newest state data complicates the argument. California reported violent crime down more than 10% in 2025, property crime down more than 14%, and a record low homicide rate. The state also warns that some agencies did not submit a complete year of data during a reporting system transition. Police statistics never describe every victimization. National surveys found that roughly 7 out of 10 property crimes were not reported to police in 2024. Victims give many reasons, including believing police could not or would not help. And falling crime is not the same as solving crime. California's 2024 homicide figures produced a clearance rate of about 64%. More than 1 out of 3 reported homicides was not cleared in that year's figures. The real scorecard is reported crime, victimization surveys, response time, clearance, repeat offending, civil rights complaints, and total cost. Campaign finance trackers show Hilton raised about $12.9 million through his candidate-controlled campaign, and Becerra about $11.3 million. Hilton reported more than 20,000 donors, with nearly 1/4 reportedly outside California. Notable donors included media, technology, sports, and real estate figures. Hilton also put roughly $200,000 into his own campaign. Becerra's direct support included construction labor, healthcare interests, and energy money. Outside spending is legally separate and must not be presented as a direct candidate donation. One independent committee supporting Becerra reported $10.3 million from groups connected to realtors, laborers, doctors, Airbnb, Meta, Chevron, McDonald's, and DaVita. Those groups cannot legally coordinate with his campaign. No pro-Hilton committee reached that reporting threshold in the same disclosure, while a committee opposing Hilton reported $2.5 million from Democratic organizations, unions, and donor Bill Bloomfield. Republicans may see a corporate and union machine behind Becerra. Democrats may see Hilton's wealthy conservative technology and real estate network. Neither list proves corruption. The test comes after Election Day. Who gets meetings? Which policies benefit major backers, and whether either governor acts against the interests financing his path to power. One controversial issue also reveals that party labels do not explain everything. Both Becerra and Hilton oppose California's proposed one-time billionaire wealth tax. Supporters say the measure could raise enormous revenue for public priorities. Critics warn about valuation disputes, legal risk, wealthy residents leaving, and long-term damage to the income tax base. For progressives, Becerra's opposition may look too friendly to wealthy interests. For conservatives, Hilton's opposition fits his tax philosophy. For voters, it is a reminder to compare coalitions issue by issue instead of assuming each candidate follows every demand from his party. Here is the scorecard we will keep updating through November. Experience. Has the candidate managed organizations and delivered measurable results? Authority. Can the governor legally carry out the promise? Math. Are the cost, savings, and funding source disclosed? Accountability. Is there a deadline and a public outcome voters can verify? Independence. Who financed the campaign, and what conflicts could follow? Becerra offers experience, institutional knowledge, and a 21-point polling lead. He also carries management questions, powerful outside support, and the burden of proving that decades in government produced results worth continuing. Hilton offers disruption, simple economic promises, and positions designed to confront Democratic control. He also carries an experience gap, unresolved fiscal math, culturally divisive proposals, and a steep electoral climb. California is not choosing between risk and no risk. It is choosing which risks it is willing to accept, and which candidate can turn promises into numbers the public can audit. That is the full receipt today. Every new filing, poll, debate, and policy document can change it before November.